heating through text. I never thought something like this could happen to me. It's one of those things that you hear about from other people or see in movies, but you never expect to find yourself living through it. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for almost 8 years when this all started. We met back in 2016, got married in 2019, and have a beautiful little boy together. Our life was by no means perfect, but it was ours. We'd built a solid foundation. Or so I thought. Lately, though, things hadn't been the same between Emily and me. I wasn't blind to the subtle changes, the little cracks that started to form in our relationship. We weren't as close as we used to be. She seemed distant, often lost in her phone or preoccupied with other things. I tried to be understanding, considering everything she had on her plate, working, taking care of our son, dealing with her health issues. But even with all of that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was on a lazy Sunday afternoon, when I was getting ready to charge my phone, that everything changed. Our son had been playing games on Emily's tablet, as he often did. He was getting tired, so I decided to take a moment and go close it down for him. That's when I saw the message. The tablet was left on the kitchen table, the screen illuminated from a recent text conversation. The name on the screen caught my attention. It was Jake, a guy Emily had mentioned a few times over the years. They were friends from her work, nothing too serious, just a name in passing that I never thought much of. But as I read through the messages, my heart sank. The texts were flirtatious, playful in a way that felt uncomfortable to read. I remember the first one I saw clearly: "Good night butthead," smiling face with heart eyes, face blowing a kiss, followed by a heart emoji, and some kisses. I tried to tell myself it wasn't a big deal. It was just a joke, right? But then I kept scrolling. Another message: "Good morning red heart." My mind started to race. Was this just friendly banter? I didn't know, but the tone felt off. There were a few more messages exchanged, some teasing, others more personal. As I kept reading, I found myself growing more and more uneasy. She had told Jake things, about me, about our marriage, that I hadn't expected. She'd said things like how I didn't support her enough or that I was putting my job ahead of our family. Things I didn't know she was feeling, and honestly, things I didn't think she'd ever say out loud. And then there were the lies. My stomach twisted when I read that she'd told him about me FaceTiming her, claiming it was our son when it was actually me. Why would she lie like that? It didn't make sense. But even worse was how she let Jake talk badly about me. She never defended me, never shut him down. She just let him bash me, and worse still, she joined in. The more I read, the more betrayed I felt. The worst part? There were no sexual messages. But as I stared at the screen, I couldn't help but feel that it was only a matter of time before it went down that path. The emotional intimacy, the attention, the little inside jokes, they were all there. And that was something I hadn't expected. I closed the tablet, my hands shaking, my mind in a storm of confusion. It wasn't just about the texts. It was about the betrayal I felt, the sense that something was slipping away from me, and I didn't even know when it started. I tried to push it aside, to think logically. Maybe I was overreacting. But I couldn't stop myself from going back. I had to see more. I looked at their messages again, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Emily had hidden the notifications from Jake on her phone, thinking I wouldn't notice. But I did. It was as if she was trying to hide something from me, trying to cover her tracks. That's when the anger really started to kick in. I felt like I was losing control over everything, and it was tearing me up inside. I couldn't help but wonder, what had happened to us? We used to be so close, so connected. But now, it felt like we were strangers. I was the one who had sacrificed so much for her, for our family. I had turned down job opportunities, moved away from my friends and family to be closer to her, all because of her health issues. I'd been there every step of the way, supporting her in every way I knew how. And yet, here she was, sending sweet messages to another guy. I thought about bringing it up to her, confronting her about what I had seen. But the truth was, I wasn't sure I was ready for that conversation. What would I even say? How could I confront her without sounding like I was overreacting? I wasn't even sure I trusted myself at that point. So, I did what I do best, I bottled it up and tried to push it out of my mind. But the truth is, it was eating at me. I couldn't stop thinking about it, about what was happening behind my back, about what Emily was doing while I was doing everything I could to keep our family together. The tension in our house grew. Emily kept acting as if everything was normal, unaware of the storm I was carrying inside. She didn't know I had seen her messages, and I wasn't sure how long I could keep it a secret. Every time she was on her phone, I couldn't help but wonder who she was texting, what she was saying. Was it Jake again? Or was it someone else? And then there was the upcoming vacation. The holidays were approaching, and we had a trip planned. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a disaster, unsure of what would happen once we were away from home. Would I confront her then? Or would I let it all fester until it tore us apart? I was torn. My love for her was still there, but it wasn't enough to blind me to what was happening. The connection we had before seemed like a distant memory, something I wasn't sure I wanted to get back anymore. I couldn't deny it, I was broken, and I didn't know how to fix it. To make matters worse, I couldn't stop worrying about her health. If I left her, if I walked away from this marriage, her medical care would suffer. She depended on me, and I couldn't bring myself to make that decision. But at the same time, I had to think about myself, about my own mental health. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly wondering what was going on behind my back. And so, I did the only thing I could think of. I decided to meet with a family law attorney after the holidays, to figure out what my options were, to help me understand the best way forward. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. My love for her might never go away, but I couldn't keep sacrificing myself in the name of a relationship that was slowly dying. I didn't have all the answers, and I wasn't sure where the road would take me. But at least I knew one thing, I had to find a way to take care of myself, before it was too late. The days following my decision to meet with a family law attorney felt like an emotional roller coaster. I kept telling myself that I needed to stay focused on the bigger picture, but honestly, everything felt like a blur. Every conversation I had with Emily felt forced. She still didn't know that I knew about the messages, and I felt like I was living a double life, trying to keep up appearances while my world was slowly crumbling around me. The holidays were the worst. There was no way to escape the tension, even with all the usual holiday cheer. We were supposed to be spending time together, enjoying the season as a family, but every little thing felt like a reminder of what was wrong between us. Emily was acting like everything was fine. She was still affectionate, still trying to be the loving wife and mother she had always been. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I wasn't sure if I was overthinking it or if I had just learned to ignore the signs for so long that they were now too obvious to deny. One night, after our son had gone to bed, I found myself sitting in the living room, staring out the window at the snow gently falling outside. It should have been a peaceful moment, the kind where you take a deep breath and let go of the stress. But I couldn't. My mind kept drifting back to those messages. To the way she'd texted Jake like it was nothing, like it was just part of a normal conversation. It felt like a betrayal, and I didn't know how to move past it. I had always believed in the idea of loyalty, of trust. To me, cheating wasn't just about physical infidelity, it was emotional, too. And that's what it felt like with Emily. It wasn't just that she was texting him, it was that she was sharing a part of herself with him that she wasn't sharing with me. I wasn't sure how to fix that. The next day, Emily and I had planned to go on a short getaway to visit her family. I thought about canceling. I even went as far as to check with the attorney about whether it was a good idea to leave the state while I was in the middle of figuring things out. But they told me it would be fine, and I knew deep down that I didn't want to make any rash decisions. I couldn't keep running away from the reality of our situation, no matter how much I wished I could. So, I went. But things weren't the same. We spent the days with her family, and I could see how much effort Emily was putting into being the perfect wife and mother. But I couldn't help but feel disconnected, like I was watching everything unfold through a glass window. I went through the motions, smiled when I had to, but it felt like my heart wasn't really in it. The vacation should have been a time to relax, to escape from everything weighing me down, but instead, it only magnified the divide between Emily and me. As we drove back home, I realized just how much I had been holding in. How long I had been letting this situation fester, pretending things were fine when they were far from it. I was angry. Angry at her, at myself, at the whole situation. I had done everything I could to be there for her, and this was how she repaid me? When we got home, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I had to talk to her. There was no more avoiding it. I sat her down and told her everything I had found out, the messages, the things she had said to Jake, the lies, everything. Her face went pale. She tried to explain, tried to tell me it wasn't what it looked like, that she was just venting, that there was nothing to worry about. But I wasn't listening. How could I? She'd already crossed a line, and I couldn't unsee what I had read. I don't know how we got here, I told her, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what's been happening between us, but I can't keep pretending like everything's okay. I feel like you've been shutting me out. Like I'm not even a priority anymore. She started to cry. Emily wasn't one to show vulnerability easily, but this time, she didn't hold back. She apologized over and over again, saying she never meant to hurt me, that she was sorry for what she'd said to Jake and the lies she'd told. But it didn't change anything. The damage had been done. I love you, I do, she said, her voice cracking. But I've been struggling, and I didn't know how to talk to you about it. I didn't want to burden you with my problems. I've been lonely, and maybe I used Jake as an outlet because I felt like you weren't really there for me. I was torn. I could hear the guilt in her voice, see the regret in her eyes. But I also knew that trust, once broken, wasn't so easy to rebuild. She had told me that she would never do anything like this, that she valued our relationship too much. But here we were, with her actions proving otherwise. We sat there for hours, talking about everything and nothing. The conversation felt like an endless cycle of apologies and justifications. But in the end, I realized something: I couldn't make the decision for her. I couldn't tell her what to do, what to feel. I had to focus on myself now. A few days later, I scheduled another meeting with the family law attorney. It wasn't about preparing for a divorce, necessarily, it was about knowing my options, understanding what was best for me and our son. Emily knew I was meeting with the attorney, but I hadn't told her the details. I wasn't ready to make any final decisions, but I knew I had to start taking the steps toward protecting myself, just in case things didn't work out. I also realized that my mental health mattered too. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for a relationship that was slowly draining me. I needed to take care of myself, for my sake, and for our sons. No matter what happened between Emily and me, I couldn't let myself fall apart completely. The next few weeks were tense. Emily and I tried to act normal for our son's sake, but the weight of the situation hung over us. There were no easy answers, no simple solutions. Every day, I had to remind myself to take things one step at a time. I didn't know where the future would lead, but I knew that I couldn't stay in a place of uncertainty forever. I had to choose what was best for me. As for Emily, I don't know what the future holds for us. I still love her in a way, but that love is different now. It's tinged with hurt and betrayal, and I'm not sure how long it will take to heal. She's promised to do better, to work on herself, but only time will tell if she can truly change. For now, I'm focusing on finding my own peace. Whatever happens, I need to be strong, for myself, for my son, and for the life I still want to build, even if it's without her. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.